everyone and welcome to this week's tutorial. I asked on my Instagram stories what sort of videos you'd like to see from me, and one of the asks was this video that I created on my Instagram a while ago. So I'm going to be showing you how I created this all in After Effects. If you like the video, please hit the like button and make sure you hit the subscribe button as well. Let's jump straight in and I'll show you how I've done it. Okay, so I'm going to start with the word slide on the middle of my screen, which is the word I want to animate. And today I'm using Druck, and I may, no, heavy's fine. I want to make that quite a bit bigger so it fills the screen on either side. Actually, I think I'm going to go for Druck wide and reduce the size of that down. Cool, so I'm going to center that into the middle of the screen and move my anchor point. And what I'm going to start with is animating this from side to side. So I want this anchor point on the far right hand side. So if I press Y and hold down Command and Shift, it will move it to this side over here. And I'm going to move along in my timeline a little bit, and I'm going to put in a scale keyframe by holding down Option and S. And then I'm going to go all the way to the beginning of my timeline, making sure I turn off the constrain proportions by just clicking that button. Now, if I make this, the first one 0, and then all we've got here is that as an animation. And then I want to change my anchor point from the right side to the left side. So I'm going to put a keyframe for position and anchor point. So if I hold down Option P for position and Option A for anchor point, and then move along in my timeline, and again pressing Y and holding down Command and Shift and moving my anchor point to the other side. And I can highlight these 4 keyframes here because I don't want it to animate in between, and I can just right click and press toggle hold keyframe. Then I want to put another scale keyframe in there and go a bit further along in my timeline and copy and paste the first keyframe. So what we've got now is something like this. So I'm just going to shorten this layer. So I'm going to press Option and then square bracket, and I'm going to put that in its own comp. So I'm going to press Command Shift C and you'll get the pre-composed window up here, and I'm going to type in text. So when we go to this composition, this is what you have. And what I should have said before is let's make this an outline. So let's add a black outline and maybe actually reverse that, so you've got a white outline and a black fill. So let's make the stroke 2. Cool. And go back to our main composition. So now what we want to do is repeat this layer at the moment that it starts to animate. So let's duplicate this and move that along. And because we want to loop this animation, we don't want it to start here. So let's trim that first bit off and move this along here. And this second layer here, we want this to be the opposite. So we want it to go from black fill and white stroke to white fill and black stroke. So if I have this layer highlighted, go to my effects panel here and type in invert, and double click that with my layer highlighted, and you can see here that it's got the black outline and a white fill. So when it goes from this first slide to the second slide, it inverts on itself. We just want to repeat this animation, so let's duplicate these 2 layers, make sure that this is all at the beginning, and then go through our timeline to the point that the animation starts again and just move them along the timeline so that this one matches. And keep doing that until we get to the end of our timeline. And because we want it to loop, we want it to end on the black fill and the white stroke. So let's finish it here, so that it loops back round again. So if we play that. So now that we have our base animation, we want to add in the kind of displacement effect to it. So to do that, we want to add an adjustment layer. So right click, new, adjustment layer. We want to go to our effects panel again and type in time displacement. It comes up there. Double click that and change this max displacement to 0.2. Cool, so if you play this now, you kind of get this weird effect. So what we need to do is we need to add a gradient layer in that will tell the time displacement where to displace. So you can actually create any sort of displacement map that you want, but for this I'm going to choose quite a simple gradient. So I'm going to create a new solid, and it doesn't really matter what color it is, and I'm going to add a gradient ramp to it. So I use Red Giant for this because I can add 3 different colors, but if you don't have Red Giant, all you need to do is create a gradient in Photoshop, save it out as a JPEG, and then bring it back in to After Effects. So I'm going to add 3 colors to this. If you did only want to use 2 colors, you can use the gradient ramp that is in After Effects natively. So I'm going to change this to 3 colors, and then I'm going to change the middle color to white, and then I'm going to change the start color to black, and I'm going to actually increase the space between these two so that the black is pushed out a little further. So if I make this a composition, so I press Command Shift C, and the only reason why I'm turning this into a composition is because it's an effect on the solid. If you were bringing in a JPEG from Photoshop, then you wouldn't need to turn this into a composition. So let's name this gradient, and I want to make sure that I've got move all attributes into the new composition and turn this layer off. So if I go back to my time displacement layer and I change this to gradient, and then we can see what is happening here. Cool, so we're already starting to get that effect on the text already. So we want to take it a step further. So I'm going to put all of this into a new composition. So let's go to the end here and make sure we make these layers all the same size. So let's pre-comp this by pressing Command Shift C. And let's call this sliding text. Okay, so let's duplicate this layer and push this up to the top. Duplicate it again and push it underneath. And again at the top. And again underneath. And let's just make sure these are spaced out correctly by highlighting them all, going to our align panel and distributing the layers. Okay, and we want these two here that have just disappeared to go back in the opposite direction. So we want to right click on these layers, go to time, and then time reverse layer. So when I play that, they actually animate at a different time and a different direction to the middle ones. So looking at this animation, I think that actually the scale keyframes need a little bit of love. Okay, so with my scale keyframe highlighted, I'm going to jump into the graph editor and pull the handle down on both of these and bringing them in, and doing the same for the keyframes out as well. Okay, so that looks something like this. Then we need to jump into our sliding text composition and just realign these. Actually, that's looking good. Let's play it in here. Cool, that's looking a lot better. So there's one last thing that we need to do, and I'm going to put these all in a new composition for that. Sliding text repeat, and then I'm going to duplicate this layer, move it along the timeline by 1 frame, press the right arrow key 3 times, yeah, and then I'm going to press the up arrow key 3 times, maybe 4 times, yeah, okay, cool. And then I'm going to duplicate that again, and I'm going to do that maybe 4 or 5 times, moving it the same amount each time. So 3 right and 1, 2, 3, 4 up. Okay, cool. So let's see what that looks like. Cool, so that's looking good. The only thing is that it needs to be repositioned within the composition now that I've added these extra layers in. So I'm going to highlight all of these and I'm going to just shrink them down slightly and then move them more in the middle. And that's it for this week's tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see more videos from me in the future, please hit the like button and make sure you hit the subscribe button as well. Until next week, bye.